Welcome back to another edition of Fly Tying for Beginners. Today we're going to tie a white and orange Marabou jig. The hook I have in the vise is a 1/32 ounce jig. It has a hot orange head. I'm going to use black 8/0 thread. We're going to attach that thread behind the jig head and run that down to the tail area, and we're going to stop where the thread would hang at the barb of the hook. I'm going to take a white Marabou feather and I'm going to pull all of it together, and I'm going to just tie the tip in. We want that to be just about the length of the jig. Now, to control all of this, I'm just going to cut that off. Take those butts and pull them out. There we have it, the length of the jig. Yeah, we're going to tie that in. And bring that thread up to behind the jig head itself. Go ahead and trim that off. Oop, can't cut the eye off. And we can secure that. We don't need a lot of touching turns on this. Let's make sure it's secured well right by the tail. Now I'm going to take an ultra fine white chenille. We're going to tie this in at the rear, just catch a little bit of it, and bring your thread up onto the jig head and stop about 2 or 3 mils from the eye of the hook, or from the jig head. Then we can wrap this. And of course it's going to get a little bigger when you get up on that jig head. And we're going to tie that off just about at that 2 or 3 mils away. Put a few wraps in front. Lock that in place. I'm going to take an orange hackle. And it depends really on personal preference how big of a hackle you want. We're going to get it so it flows towards the rear, but you take that hackle and measure it up to that and see how long those barbels are. And that's actually a pretty decent size one right there. And here we have one similar. If we stand those barbs up, we can see it's just going to the tail there. I'm going to tie that in. This will be a good jig for crappie and sunfish, brim. I'm going to put my hackle pliers on there and pull all the hackle to one side. And if it's not, the hackle's not going to one side, just stroke it towards the rear as you go. Get one more wrap in there. Bring that up and put a few wraps in front of it. And we can get rid of that. Now I'm going to pull all of the hackle towards the rear. So I want this to go to the rear slightly. We're going to tie that, and we're going to come back on that maybe 2 or 3 thread widths. There we go. Then we can take our whip finish and finish off that head. Pull that tight. I'm not going to clean my brush off really well because I'm going to hold everything back. I'm going to get the head cement on the jig head. Also, let that roll down. But what I use for head cement is Sally Hansen Hard as Nails, and I'm going to coat the jig head itself because that will help to keep the paint on there a little longer. And here we have an orange and white panfish jig. Hope that you learned something from this video. Hope you would subscribe to my channel. Please refer me to your friends. Leave comments, questions, suggestions. And most of all, thank you very much for watching my videos.